What is going on? Welcome to another episode of the River Run Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Pross, and I am thankful for you all coming out tonight and listening to another episode. And this is cool. Episode 11, we're here. So, what's been going on? Yeah, well, the River Run Podcast, it's on Instagram now. I've actually gone and created a page. So check it out. The River Run Podcast is on Instagram. Also, it's a Facebook page. You can follow along. Facebook is weird. They don't. When this goes to stream stuff, it doesn't allow me. So you can always listen or watch on the Paddle and Fin network, Paddle and Fin Facebook page. Hopefully, it will make it onto the River Run Podcast page. But yeah. I went fishing. Hard Knox meetup at it was for Lake Seymour. We launched through the Trent River. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was planning to head to the lake. But when I seen the river and where the launch was, I was like, I think I'm going to spend my time here. And I did. And I got to there's all these familiar faces who come out, and there's a lot of new faces that come out too, which was always fun. I really enjoy it. But yeah, no, it was cool. It was like really weather-wise, excellent day. Car camped as usual. And yeah, no, got out there, caught some smallies. If you really want to know something funny, I caught a smallie first on a black and blue Dewey Baits Ned Craw. And I was just kind of tossing it along, moving it, tossing it, going. And then all of a sudden, boop, I felt it. Perfect. Brought him in. Nice. Okay. 17. I like it. We're good. So I make another 3 casts, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna throw in my chatterbait. Started moving around chatterbait, black and blue. I had a Batwings Z-Man Batwings trailer on it, and all of a sudden, boom! I hit a largemouth, and I'm like, okay, figure out what you guys are doing here. Like the largemouth and the smallmouth are in the same hole. Like I don't know. It was a first for me. I don't know if that's a usual thing or what, but yeah, no, it was cool, and I would say for me. The finesse is like, I just love finesse fishing. Like it's one of those things that I enjoy. And this lineup of Dewey baits, they got all sorts of Senkos and craws and paddle tail swimmers. And I'll be honest with you, I've been playing around with them. I've been putting them on jigs, Neds, you name it, chatterbaits, all sorts of stuff, just to try. And I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. And you can actually find those at the Dubro Fishing. Dubro Fishing is awesome because they give the River Run listeners a chance to save 10% at checkout. So yeah, Dubro Fishing. They got the new Do More Cup holder. Yeah, I can't wait to get mine. But yeah, no, in the end, save 10% with Dubro. You know the code. Check it out, dubrofishing.com. Hard Knocks, yeah, in the end, it was fun. We got another meetup as the River Run Podcast is a sponsor for their events this year. So we got the meetup on the 10th of August. Steve Ite, who has been on the show, he'll be posting all that info for you. Check it out, Hard Knocks Kayak Fishing on Instagram and on Facebook. Also, the U.S. Trail, Jackson Kayaks. They have a great trail that goes across the nation for all the fishing you need to do. Check it out. You can check that out on usbassin.com. But yeah, so in the end, also, please go check out the River Run Podcast, Instagram and Facebook. And if you want to check out the River Run Fishing that is on YouTube. That is my personal YouTube, which streams the podcasts on it. And hey, don't forget to hit a like and subscribe. I'm greatly appreciative and grateful for all those who do. And let me know what you think. Comment, like, subscribe, comment, share. It's all there. My guest tonight is he's got quite the tournament finish, I have to say. He is Mr. Eric Siddiqi. He's professional kayak angler, Bassmaster champion. You can nail him down into the KBF winnings, the Hobie, B.A.S.S, B.A.S.S, two-time world championship, and also the Pan Am Team USA. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the show Mr. Eric Siddiqi. Come on in, dude. Hey,
How
man,
what's
going? Good. Thank you for taking time to come on the River Run podcast. So, what's going on, dude? Like, how's everything been? Like, were you I'd seen you were at the latest Bassmaster kayak series event down on the Susquehanna on the weekend. Looks like you're keeping busy fishing.
Yeah, it was a great week. I had a blast down there. That was smallmouth fight, crazy. Had a birthday on Thursday, which I share with my buddy Ryan Lambert. So we had a really good time this weekend. Didn't take it too seriously. Just had a really good time and enjoyed it. Neither one of us really needed it, so it worked out really well. We had a good time.
Well, happy belated birthday, and
thank you.
At the same time, that's sometimes you just gotta shake it down, let loose, and have some fun, especially when you're surround yourself with great people and the boys and all the friends. It's probably cool when you get to go to these events, because I'm sure a lot of you don't probably live in the same spot, like in the same state. So when you get the chance to kind of all get together, it's kind of like for all the meetups that I'll go to. It's the same thing, like across Ontario and whatnot. You don't always see these people that you may interact with more online, and then you get the weekends here and there to hang out and whatnot. So that's cool, dude.
Yeah, one of the things that really kept me going all these years is the camaraderie and all the people you get to see. I met some of the best people I've ever met in my life doing this. So, I love going to tournaments and seeing all them. And in a lot of cases, you only get to see them at tournaments. So it's good.
So I'm going to let you introduce yourself. You can take the stage, and I'll let you. It's all yours, my friend.
All right. I'm Eric Siddiqi from Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm a professional kayak fisherman. I've been doing it for a little over 10 years, I guess now. And I've accomplished a lot in the sport. We got to watch it grow and help it grow over the years. And it's great to see where it is. And I'm really looking forward to see where it goes from here.
So I got to ask, though, like you do have you have an extensive record here of when you look at it, like your finishings, like just your involvement in tournaments, you know what I mean? I remember when I got into kayak fishing, which is almost I'd say, it's 10 years that I've been in it. And I remember like KBF, and I remember watching, online, like Russ Snyder's, like Christine Fisher, the list could probably just go on. It's cool to actually be able to sit here and chat with you about this, because when you started to what it is now, I'm sure it's a lot different, in the concept of even motors and like the advancement of electronics, and and just now that you've gained even more experience, you kind of show up to, I'm sure, a lot of these events, and you've either probably fished that body of water, or you kind of have a starting point and whatnot. So what was it like when you began? What made you decide to I'm going to go kayak fishing? You know what I mean?
Well, honestly, I started out watching Chad Hoover's show and saw him, and that's what kind of was like, I could do that. I was fishing some lakes around Cincinnati, and I grew up fishing Pickwick and stuff, but my dad didn't really fish, so I never really fished out of a boat or anything. So I bank fished everywhere I went, and yeah, kayak was just a way to get me on the water. So I started doing that, bought a Bass Pro brand kayak, and just got me on the water, started fishing. I remember a couple months after I started kayak fishing, I was fishing a gravel pit lake and put up 43 pounds with my best five. Broke my PB 3 times that day. And
Wow.
yeah, so I
Oh,
kind of
that's
fell in
cool,
love with it
man.
right away. And never really used electronics, so my first one was a Lowrance. I think it was a 7 inch, and put that on there, and started fishing some monthlies and winning those. And then I found out there was some live tournaments, so I drove down to Texas and fished Toledo Bend. Was my first tournament, I think, in 2000, end of 2014 or 15, and
Wow.
qualified
That's
for the first KBF national championship there. And realized at that tournament that if I wanted to compete, I needed a pedal drive kayak, so I'm hands free, and bought a Hobie in the over the winter. And my first tournament after that was the KBF championship, and just kind of went from there, learning electronics, watching it grow. It was at the time the people who had pedal drive kayaks had the advantage. Electronics. If you had a 7 inch, if you had a 7 inch or a 9 inch, you were kind of ahead of the game.
yeah. And then
And it's
like
just
now you look at it and it's
it's
like,
crazy.
everybody's got screens all over the place. Like,
hmm It's crazy.
right in front of you. So like that's funny you mentioned about the whole like Chad Hoover um kayak bass and that TV show. I remember watching it actually
hmm
on the fishing World Fishing Network, and I thought to myself, I was like, man, and he was always like just so pumped, when he was
hmm
catching just absolute giants, and I was like, man, I got to try this, like
Yeah.
this. And I remember the first time I even went out, and aha, dude, like I was hooked. Like I boat, yeah, okay, it's fun, but the kayak, man, and ever since, like I caught the bug, and yeah, it's a ride, you know what I mean? It's a thrill, you know what I mean? But it's cool to see like now, like just the immense amount of like people go out there with like all this electronics, and the game is just so different
hmm
to what it
Yeah.
was, in the beginning. And it
Right.
probably makes for, competition gets, it gets harder, everybody going
Yeah.
out there and really just,
It's
live
gotten a
scoping
lot
and
tougher over the years. Yeah. The
yeah. So
competitions, and a lot of the people who have been starting the last couple of years are starting to get really good too, because all the traveling and time on the water, and learning. So the competitions just it's not getting easier. That's for sure. But
well, and would you say you see a lot more new faces to these events, like compared to like when you began, like you're in the beginning? Would you say, like, for instance, like the previous Susquehanna run that you did on the weekend, like there was over 200 anglers signed up for that. Like some of these events now are becoming more and more popular, and you get a lot of faces and new people who want to try, or just even like local sticks who are like, oh, look at the guys
right.
coming from bass boats now to like, I think Mike Iaconelli was even
hmm
there fishing, and another bass boat guy who's
Yeah.
once again succeeding also on the kayak series. So
Right. I know. I've met Ike quite a few times. He's a really good dude. So it's been great to see him support it too. And I ran into him afterwards, and he was like, "I hate doing mediocre." He's like, "I'd rather almost just blow the tournament than do mediocre. I hate that." But it happens. I mean, it's not easy. The competition's steep. All these guys out there can fish. So it's always been a challenge beating the locals too. So you get there, you got a few days, week at best, and try to learn whatever lake or river you're on, and try to beat the locals and all the other sticks that are in the tournament. But it seems like it's a lot of times always you see a lot of the same faces when you go to go to awards. It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's it just shows you, it's not, people like to say it's all luck. I mean, that definitely plays a part sometimes, but it's definitely not all luck.
Well, and like you said before, just that a lot of the people who spent the time, traveling, trying different bodies of water, participating in these tournaments, taking those moments where, it's like, you're feeling defeated. And then the moments where you're like, haha, I got the W, I'm cashing a check, like this is, you know, I'm sure like any angler, you might leave those tournaments sometimes and you're like, oh man, like, what am I doing? Like, I drove this
Right.
far to go with this, and it's like,
It's
and then you get
the
times where,
easiest sport to lose confidence in. No matter what you've
yeah,
done, sometimes you just feel like you don't know, you don't know what you're doing. You'll get to that point, just ups and downs of that's just fishing. It's just what it is.
So
I
out
mean,
of
when it
all
was cool from when I started and I saw
yeah,
Chad, on his show. It was maybe a year and a half, and I won a tournament, my first tournament on lacrosse, and he put me on his show. So that was pretty cool. To go from watching him to being on his show, it was pretty neat.
well, and at the same time, it's kind of like somebody that you, in some ways, has opened that door to the sport for you.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah,
think Chad's done that too for a lot of people. Like
yeah,
even like
yeah.
Gene Jensen, like is another person, or even Jeff Little is, like all these
Mm,
guys who, for years, did this when a lot of people maybe weren't, or, you wouldn't have heard somebody like, oh man, I'm going kayak fishing today. Like now it's like you go out there
right,
and you're like, okay, like it's almost like there's more kayaks at the boat launch than there are actually boats, like,
right. Yeah.
or you get to those spots that, you fish and you're like, holy crap, man, like
And
everybody's
the
going
boaters
out to
love it, let me
kayak.
tell you.
Yeah, it's
But yeah, it's been neat seeing the shows too when you go to like the Bassmaster show, or um, when I used to go to Forest Wood Cup, just seeing how many more kayaks and kayak booths and things that are geared toward kayak fishing every year, compared to, when I started, it was just all boater everything. So it's been neat to see
well,
how
even
it's grown.
the first year of the Bassmaster kayak series, where was that the classic on was it
Logan Martin,
Polson? What it was that
the first Bassmaster, I think it was Logan Martin.
Logan Martin? Okay,
Mm,
um, it's to be on that same stage, you know what I mean? Like where you watch years where these guys drive in with their bass boats, and like it's like it's literally the Super Bowl of fishing, and now
mm,
you're sharing the stage as
yeah,
as
I
some
mean, the
of these
goal in
guys
that
you
one was to make the stage. And
and
I came in fourth in that one and made the
yeah.
stage, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, that was everybody's
So
goal. Everybody wanted to walk that stage.
like you I have to say, like, when it comes to kayak fishing or tournament wise, like, honestly, like, you have an impressive standings in where what you've accomplished, but like your mindset to getting into a tournament, let's say, excuse the Susquehanna, birthday, seeing friends, okay, but for instance, like when you won it on Lake Gunnersville and you also took home a Toyota truck with a trophy, like that's pretty sweet. But just like
Yeah.
your mindset to like this, you're getting ready to do a tournament. Like what? How do you prepare yourself for it? Like aside from like obviously all the homework that you might do previous to that, but like really your strategy to your finishes.
Yeah, well, Gunnersville's a tough one. There's I've said it many times before. You could win that tournament anywhere on the lake. I really believe that. And I won a KBF. I think it was last year. It might have been the year before. Where a guy was asking me where he should fish, and I told him that like you could literally win it anywhere on this lake. So it's kind of hard, for me to tell you where to go. Just go, kind of figure out
Yeah.
and start fishing. And I won it in an area I'd never fished before, and that one. So, and the same thing in this one. I was just looking at maps, trying to look at. It's hard not to fish history sometimes. Like even that morning when I was going to the tournament, I had some good shallow fish I was considering going to. But I just bought the new Garmin live scope. Finally, just broke down and bought it. Stopped at dugout, and they rigged me all up. And I was like, you know what? I've been playing Nintendo for too long. It's time to go try out this PS5. And so I decided to. I had some good deep fish, and decided to go just see if I could win it on them. So, I wasn't getting a lot of bites, but I was getting good ones. So I knew I was probably only going to get 5 to 8 bites in a day, but I felt like they'd be the right ones. So. And sometimes it's hard to do. It's really hard to stick it out there. I mean, I didn't catch my 5th on day 2 until maybe 30 minutes to go, and it was a 22 and a quarter, I think it was. So, and then I had a huge patch of eelgrass float over my area, and I was like, oh man, I don't know if I'll get another cast of this. And then I could see with the wind blowing, I could see the chop on the water where there wasn't eelgrass, and I could see this open patch coming to me. So I just sat there for about 10 minutes, waited. Finally came over to where I wanted to make a cast. It was a 30-foot hump out in front of this ledge, and made a long cast, let it fall, and caught a 20 there at the end to win it. So, it all kind of worked out.
You had to be feeling pretty good on that.
Yeah.
When you're kind of at that moment.
Yeah, I was pretty loud when I caught that 22, and I had some bows out there with me. Yeah, they knew when I caught it. I was, yeah, baby, let's go! Like, just, everybody knew. They're like, oh man, like you still fishing that hump with a drop shot out in 30 foot? I'm like, it's actually a Nico I'm throwing, but yeah. And they're like, yeah, we saw you out there fishing yesterday. After you got off the water, we caught like 20 or 30 fish off that spot. I was like, oh, that's great. Well, at least didn't no harm, no foul, right? So
I gotta ask though, like the Nico, is that kind of like your go-to for finesse there, or is that
the first time I've ever thrown it? It just felt like I wasn't getting a lot of bites. I wanted an exposed hook, something that when I got that bite, I could just play them, and I wasn't gonna lose them, and I could get a good hook in them. I like using stuff with a single hook, so it just felt like a good. I had done a little research on the Nico in the off season and picked out a worm I liked and a hook and everything, and just decided that was the right time to throw it.
Yeah, because you, like, after your win on Guntersville there, you recapped it, and you have that shot where you got both the rods, and you got the shadow glows, which you were using on the ledge. It says over 15 feet of water, and then you talk also about this 7-inch Magnum hitworm on a Nico. Like, that's pretty, like, to have, like, I don't know, it's kind of, I guess, finesse for the win there, you know what I mean? Like,
it worked out. My normal stuff, there wasn't really, they didn't want anything big or really moving at all. It didn't seem like, except for in the morning I was throwing that top water when they would come up schooling with all the white bass in the area, and you just have to weed through a bunch of white bass, and I was just weeding through white bass, hoping I get one of the bass I was seeing busting to eat, and managed to get a good one. I think a 20 or 20 and a quarter first thing in the morning on the first day. Caught a 18.5-inch spot or something, 18 and a quarter.
Jesus.
And then the next morning I caught a 19.5-inch spot and all those white bass on the top water, and then the rest came on the Nico.
Wow. And then, okay, so you went, you have that awesome shot of you're on the, it looks like the ledge looking over Lake Guntersville. You got the trophy, holding proud, you know what I mean?
That was at the Airbnb, yeah.
And then there's this Toyota truck.
Yeah. Well, on the way down there, I was driving a Silverado, and it started making noise and sounded like the lifters were going bad. So I stopped in Chattanooga, and they pretty much gave me the bad news and quoted me like $4,000. And I was like, you know what, I need a truck anyways. Been looking at some Tundras, so I went over to the Toyota dealership, saw a Tundra I liked, and I was like, just hold it for me till Monday. And they're like, all right. So I left out of there, just hoped my truck would make it through the week. Ended up winning the tournament, left out on Monday,
Bounced
and
over.
got it. Yeah. And they gave me a little bit of deal on it since I showed up with the trophy and everything, and they sponsor Bassmaster, so that was cool.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. That's super cool. So, you walked, out of that, but before that, you have hit it on a second place finish on the Lacrosse, the Wisconsin river, which that's a pretty famous kayak fishing river because of KBF and a lot of the other events that have gone there. And then
it was pretty cool. My first one ever came on Lacrosse, so that was pretty neat. But I kind of know how Lacrosse works. There's kind of fish everywhere. It's hard to find those a little bit better fish, and I really got there on Monday and pre-fished for 3 hours and found an area that I'd fished in the past. I was holding some better fish, so rest of the week, Lacrosse is one of my favorite places. A lot of bars, a lot of fun to be had. So I just kind of hung out and had a good time the rest of the week. And Friday night, I started rigging stuff and everything. And my buddy Cody Milton was staying. He comes by and he goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Rigging stuff, getting ready for tomorrow." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Why are you trying now?" It doesn't make sense to try now because I've just been having a good time all week. But I was like, you know how lacrosse is? I found my fish. They should be there. There's no reason to go catch them till tomorrow. And he's like, I don't know. I don't think it makes sense to try now. And then the next day I go out and put one of the biggest bags anybody's seen, caught on in that area and caught one of the biggest fish anybody's ever seen.
Yeah.
Caught there.
22.25.
Yep.
Smallie?
No, it was largemouth. Yeah.
That's a giant.
A giant. It was a giant, and it had a 20 with it, trying to take the bait out of its mouth, and so I'm reeling it in, and I'm just like, "Get away!" And I was just thinking the whole time, I was like, "If I lose this fish, no one will believe it." So I was happy to get that one in. I did a little video. I was kind of blown away by that fish, but if I had went there and fished during the week, I might have caught it in practice. So. Knowing how lacrosse works, helped me in that one. And second day didn't get any wind, so dropped down a little bit, but still managed to. Once I got some wind at the end of the day, I called everything up and managed to still get back up into second. So that was cool.
That's you had not. I think it was 97. Yeah, 91.75 inches. Like, man.
Yeah.
That's, but to 22.25 largemouth, like, that's a giant.
Yeah, it's a giant. It's a giant. I've been saying it for years. When I did the filming for Chad's show after that tournament, I had the camera guy with me and set the hook on a fish. And he comes in front of me. I had to lift up the rod for him to come in front of me, and the fish jumped. And I've said for years it was a 7 or 8 pounder. Nobody believed me. But as it came off, I was like, I don't think anyone believed me, but I think some people might believe that I might have had that fish now.
So is that like a personal best right now, largemouth for you?
No, my biggest largemouth was 25 and a half in Florida. That was my biggest.
Now we're talking giant land here. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I actually had a video of that on my YouTube also. I don't have a lot on there, but that's one of
them. Okay, so like, what's the story behind that there? Like, we gotta dive into this.
Well, I fished the tournament, and then after the tournament, a buddy of mine told me about a lake that had giants in it, and I had some time, so I decided to head over there and fish. Kind of saw some big fish moving. Wouldn't really catch anything. Then the rain started, and I was like, oh man, I'm getting rained on now. And it wasn't long after that, I threw a jackhammer and hooked into that one. And when it jumped, I was like, yeah, I knew I had a giant on, and it came at me, went under the boat, jumped on the other side. I put my whole rod in. I felt the line run across the rudder. I thought for sure it was going to break me off, and managed to get it in. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Dude, that is really cool.
Yeah,
like that had to be like an absolute giant of a fish. Like,
yeah,
holy world,
that was
dude.
awesome. I didn't have a scale on me or anything. I thought about going to get one, but I didn't want the fish to die or anything, so I measured it and let it go. But it was pretty cool.
No, that's so you've also been a Team USA member. Now, what's that? Like, now you've gotten through your tournaments, and like that's kind of something you got to qualify for. Like you like they're not just going to take anybody. Like Team USA, like kind of like Team Canada or any of the other. They want the best of the best.
Right.
Those who are going to perform. What was that like? That had to be a pretty unique experience. Probably never thought you may represent the United States in kayak fishing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, I fished for and Hobie Worlds in Australia. I think it was 2019 for USA, and then right before I fished in Mexico for Team USA, I fished in Sweden. I qualified for another Hobie Worlds and fished there, and we were supposed to go to Mexico right afterwards, so I flew out of Fort Worth, so I had a shorter drive there when I got back, and they canceled it while I was over there, or postponed it. So then it got postponed a couple months, but we finally got down there. They postponed it because of the cartel was too bad or something on the route we were driving, so it was pretty crazy. But we ended up going down and getting it done. Went and fished El Cachillo Lake, and it was a really good time. It was a bunch of the country represented, a lot of Spanish-speaking people, so I was just doing my best. Took a couple years in high school, so it was kind of coming back to me. Yeah.
Cerveza?
I think they all liked I was trying. Right, yeah, I definitely. No
it's funny you mentioned about the whole cartel thing. We had Jeff Little on the show, and we're talking about his travels as he goes all over the states, and we spoke about Mexico, and he was like talking about like how it was laid out like in the like border security, like it's really not suggested that you drive down through certain parts because like the cartel presence is so strong down there. So so like you're fishing like not only in North America, you're now advancing into different countries. Which one was like a favorite for you? You know what I mean? Like, which one kind of like really was the most like, okay, this is really neat. Like, this place is like the bomb. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Australia was pretty incredible, and Hobie really put on a good show there, and took us out on a boat, had a nice dinner one night, and we had kangaroo and barramundi and all kinds of stuff like that. It was, seeing everybody from all the different countries. It was really, really cool. It was my first experience too with Worlds, getting to see all the people from different countries, find out what they like to catch, what their fish are. Australians were yellowtail Australian brim, which we went after. So yeah, it was really neat.
Now, you kind of brought up a neat point, is that you're now meeting people that are like, man, I may have never caught a smallmouth bass. I maybe never even caught a largemouth bass. I don't fish freshwater. Like, I am only a saltwater angler. You know what I mean? There's probably fish you've never heard of that people are catching. That had to be a cool experience, and like also like same time like you're making new friends from across the world, but you would never thought people that may had been into it as crazy as you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right.
like, and to experience the culture, like, I don't know, like go to Australia to eat a kangaroo, you know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah,
I've had kangaroo
it's,
before, so I do know what it tastes like. But no,
it's good.
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I gotta say though, any unique experiences though, like other than eating kangaroo, obviously in Australia, but any memorable experiences there?
Oh, it was a blast the whole time. I did go into a Aboriginal. Uh, it was like it was a bunch of artists that had like paintings that were all Aboriginal artists, and I got to go in and see all that and learn about it. That was pretty neat. I ended up buying one. The guy who ran the place, I was in there for maybe 3 or 4 hours, and the guy who ran the place was just, he's like, I love seeing people who like appreciate this stuff, and kind of told me all about it, and then gave me a good deal on the one I liked. So that was pretty neat. Uh, and
Oh,
yeah, just
that's cool.
yeah, and just hanging out with all the guys, meeting the Australians, and had a good time with a bunch of the guys from Europe and stuff like that. It
So,
was
are you
a really good
set
time.
to go to? Is it Mexico again coming up?
It's
Or no,
Italy.
um,
It's
it's in the
Italy
States or South Carolina, is it?
for the Team USA or what for what?
I think it's the Pro-Am event. Is it? I could have
I'm
it
not
wrong.
sure.
Sorry.
They're having one in Italy, and if they add a second team, I think I'll probably be on that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, and like when you go on these events, I had two of the Canadian team members, um, Antoine DG and Jamie Stevenson. You probably cross paths with Jamie in Sweden,
Okay. Yeah.
and she would have been. They just did the one on obviously Lake St. Clair there,
Hmm.
but no, that's cool. I remember when Antoine was on, he had mentioned that there's something coming up. I'm just drawing a blank on it, but I will find it. But yeah, no, man, like that's cool. Like, so I gotta ask you, what's next? Like, what's happening, tournament wise for you? Like, where you? What's the game plan here? Like,
Next one is not this weekend, but next weekend. It's the Hobie on Saginaw Bay, which we've never been to. So I'm really looking forward to that. I like going to new places and breaking it down, starting fresh. I always like that. Seems like I've always done well on when I go into places I've never been, and just kind
yeah.
of look at it fresh, break it down. Seems like
So
I
how,
do well
like,
with those.
when you talk about breaking it down though, how do you break down water? Like, as you get into, if you want to share it, but how do you, as an angler, because obviously there's you've got loads of other people who are going to be there fishing it too, right? So
Mm.
you're, once again, like, you're, to break it down, how, and like obviously you have multiple plans, I guess. Like if plan A doesn't work, go to plan B, like,
Right.
when you get to a new body of water, like, how do you approach that?
Well, I try to, I look at time of year, what I think the fish are going to be doing. Around the spawn, you could kind of break it down a little better. I always start with places where I think they would have spawned, because a lot of times those fish won't move too far from there. They'll move out deep, in the summer and stuff like that, which is, how I approached Gunnersville. I found a good area that I know would probably get replenished with retreads. There's some good spawning areas there, and I know right after they're done is kind of the deepest they'll go all year, just kind of recover. So that's why
Yeah.
when everybody else was fishing 18 to 20 feet, all those boaters around that area, I looked a little deeper and found a hump in 30 that I was able to use to win the tournament. So it just depends, time of year. Also, spots, largemouth, smallmouth all behave differently. So you just kind of have to understand how they behave. You have to understand what kind of forage that lake or river has, what they're eating, and I'm really a big believer in looking at maps, and I feel like I could look at a map and just break down a body of water before I ever get there, and choose some of the right areas to go look at. And a lot of times I'll make marks on the map, and then I'll look at the whole area, the whole lake or whatever, and make marks of things, what I think is going to be happening,
Yeah.
and then I'll zoom out, and whatever area I have the most marks in, that's the area I'll start in.
Now, when it comes to like, obviously that entails now the presentations and techniques that you're going to, use, Now, are you on more of the like, are you more of a power fisherman, or would you say you're more a finesse fisherman, or you're just kind of like, I do whatever needs to get done to catch them, you know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably have loads of tournament other anglers who at the same time might just be like on the more the finesse side, or more of a power fisherman. Let's say like somebody like Drew Gregory, who goes out there and just chucks and winds.
I feel like I'm pretty good at a lot of different things. Most things I can hold my own, but I'm definitely more of a finesse fisherman. Kind of slow, methodical. I mean, that's why I'm good on a ledge, because sometimes you got to wait them out until the conditions right, and just know you're doing the right thing, and just stick it out. And even if you haven't had a bite in hours, just know that you're in the right spot, doing the right thing, and just keep grinding away, keep casting. So I kind of like that. I love setting the hook. I like throwing a single hook. That's my favorite thing. So I don't mind fishing slow, as long as when I get bit, I get to lay into them. You know what I mean? That's what I like to do.
Yeah. But like, so for like, finesse technique, if you were to only be able to throw one, what would it be?
For finesse?
Yeah, for finesse.
Well, like I said, I'm new to it, but I'm a pretty big believer in the Nico now. That was that's a pretty it's a pretty good way to catch them, from what I've seen. I love throwing a caffeine shad. I consider that a kind of a finesse. I'll throw like 10-pound leader on a spinning rod. If I'm fishing shallow grass, especially clear water, I'll throw that, and it's saved me a lot of times.
The caffeine shad is like an awesome fluke style bait.
Yeah. It's like a mixture between a fluke and a Cinco, I feel like, because when you kill it and let it fall, that tail just kind of does that little Cinco thing, and it seems like I catch a lot of my bigger ones when I just kill it and let it fall, and then I just start reeling again, and it's on there.
I too, I used to throw the caffeine shad quite a bit. I was the white was my go-to for it. But it's funny you say that about it being like a Senko, because I have in past rigged it like wacky and had great success, throwing it a complete different way that, most people would like text pose it, or even, hook it through the nose. But to run it, like, it's funny. So you mentioned about it kind of being the mix between a Senko and a fluke. It really is. And it's a pretty impressive bait, in my opinion, just for its action.
Senko is probably one more money than any
it's
bait.
like the cheapest bait on the planet. Well, I don't know anymore, but the Senko is any finesse. I really like finesse worms, so I might have to look further into this whole Nico rig presentation. Maybe give this a whirl at some point.
So before I threw the Nico, I was throwing a chicken rig, and it's basically a weedless Nico, and that works pretty well. I really like that. One thing I've found with that, for me, is the bait that works the best on that is a Senko, and there's another way for them to see it. You would think something that floats or something would be better, but I don't know what it is. Seems like the same. I mean, they rip easy, when you're doing that and stuff, so you might go through a few, but sometimes I'll put some, mended on the Senkos before, so it toughens them up a little bit, and I get through a few more and stuff like that. But yeah, it works really well.
No, it's yeah, like I don't know. It's just the finesse. I do like throwing jackhammers, chatterbaits. Bladed jig is one of my favorites. A football jig, also a single hook, dragging that on the bottom. St. Lawrence River is always fun too.
Yeah,
Letting
Old
smallies
Kentucky
come
Lake. That was my favorite thing to do, was drag a football jig on those ledges. That was fun, and you'd set the hook on a big one, you'd know right away because they would just start coming straight to the surface to try to throw it.
Yeah, that's
I
so.
miss when Kentucky Lake was that good. It was my favorite lake for a few years. It was when it was before all those carp got in there and kind of screwed things up. But I've been hearing it's coming back now, so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and that's funny because your favorite place to fish is you've all just mentioned it, but aside from that one, what would be place that you really like to fish?
I love St. Clair. It's hard to beat. It's hard to beat St. Clair. It's just it's amazing. It's an amazing fishery. If I had to pick one place to go, it'd probably be there. Just those smallmouth are just so much fun, and I've had a lot of success there over the years. I won 3 or 4 tournaments there. I qualified for both my worlds there. When I went to Australia, I was the only one who was already qualified for the next worlds because I won the Hobie on St. Clair right before I left for that one, and the KBF on St. Clair, kind of back-to-back weeks right before I left. So I don't really know what it is that I've had, because I mean, they're not hard to catch. It's hard to catch. It's kind of hard to get those bigger ones, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what it is that I've had so much success there winning. But yeah, I love that place. It's awesome.
Now, you were on the last Hobie World. You were not at that St. Clair, correct?
No, right.
Okay. Now, so being in the Cincinnati area, what's the number one place for you to actually like fish at home? You know what I mean? Like if you're, let's say like going out with your kids or taking friends out, where's that number one place for you?
And around here, it's tough. But I always say if you catch fish in Cincinnati, you catch them anywhere. I think there's a lot of good fishermen from Cincinnati that would prove that. But yeah, I think traveling a little bit. I like to go fish. Brookville's fun. Well, it's a better walleye fishery than anything. It seems like. Um, yeah, there's not a whole lot around here. But on the bright side, I travel quite a bit, so when I'm home, it helps keep me at home with the kids more often than than on the water. So I get to spend a lot of time with them, so that's good. But I've got some friends that have really good small lakes and ponds and stuff that I'll take them to, and we'll fish and stuff like that.
That's cool, dude.
Yeah,
that's cool. So, your next run, have you begun strategizing for that? Like, new body of water. It's going to be loads of fun, but at the same time, I wanted to ask if you could only go fishing with one person, who would it be? One person.
That's a tough one.
It could be anybody.
I gotta say, it'd probably be Josh Stewart.
Josh Stewart. Okay,
he's a fun guy, man. He's a fun guy. I always crack up laughing the whole time we fish. So I always love when we're fishing tournaments. I always love seeing him on the water. He cracks me up, and so yeah, I'd probably be him.
That's awesome, dude.
I always have a good time fishing with him.
So you're at that point now. You've covered from the KBF all the way to the Worlds, if you could give a angler any advice, like we're talking, and we'll not just fishing advice, but tournament advice, what would you tell them?
Well, that's a loaded question, but I'd have to go with honestly, you just gotta have confidence, get out there and do it. And the more you fish and travel, the more you're gonna learn. And there's really no shortcuts to it. You know, people always ask me like, "How did you get into this?" I decided I was gonna do it, and I traveled and hit every tournament I could. Slept in my truck at boat ramps and WalMarts and Bass Pros and wherever I could. And sometimes I would be like, if I don't cash a check in this one, I don't know how I'm going to make it to the next one. And it seemed like I always would. So I felt like I was doing what I was supposed to do, when I started, that's kind of how it was. So, and I loved it. It was, it was great. So I think just getting out there and fishing and going to as many tournaments as you can and getting better would be.
Yeah, no, you're proof that, time on the water is, definitely a great tool to have,
Right.
in
the last couple of years, I haven't got to spend as much time on the water, but because of all the time I've spent in the past, I don't have to work as hard because it's just a little bit easier to break down water and know where to go, put myself in the right areas and stuff, even though I don't have as much time as I used to have.
No, that's cool. And with the River Run podcast, we have a lot of people who are also getting into kayak fishing tournaments and whatnot. And somebody like you who has so much experience, knowledge, this is great. This is something that they can learn from, and so.
Don't forget to have a good time either at these tournaments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there you go.
And hang out with people, especially when you're drinking. People might spill more secrets than they normally would. I know I do. So don't overlook it.
If you're listening and you see Eric drinking, where to find him for the secrets on the winds on certain lakes. No, as like I said, as we come to the end of
this one's from Gunnersville right there.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. There you go.
Peanut butter porter, back 40.
All right.
Some I always buy when I go to Gunnersville. It's 10% though, so you better watch out. They'll sneak up on you.
All right. I was gonna say, for the listeners, where can I let them know where they can find you? Go for it, man.
Siddiqi Fishing on Instagram and Eric Siddiqi on YouTube. Just look me up, you'll find my page. I kind of quit using cameras and everything a few years ago. I just got to the point where I was like, I just want to fish. It's another thing to worry about, but I'm starting to get back into it now. I see the merit in it now, being able to go back and look at good fish catches and videos and stuff, from long ago. So I'm gonna start doing a little more of it.
Yeah, I've always.
Christine's the best at it, obviously.
It's cool because you can learn though. Mm-hmm. Like you can, and you can go back to those catches and you can kind of see like, or even when you lost a fish, you know what I mean? You kind of have this evidence of, okay, this is where I could have. But for me, like, I'm getting into the whole concept of filming my outings, and I'm just one of those guys who just likes to go out and fish. I can't really be bothered with it, but I'm doing my hardest to get that GoPro mount on and have it going. Man, I just want to say thank you so much for stopping on by the River Run podcast, Eric. Thank you for taking time to share your experience out on the water, and man, we look forward to having you on again. Maybe we can talk some more techniques, maybe even dive in a little more into the Nico rig, as I know I will be definitely checking that rig out, because that is not a rig that I throw. So yeah, man.
Right. Well,
Hey,
like I
man.
said, I just looked it up and saw a bait I liked and found a hook I liked and
Yeah.
it worked out. You know.
Yeah, you just need a
So,
little. I think it was a little nail
yeah,
weight on the one end,
yeah,
but
nail
yeah,
weight. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Well, thanks
no.
for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
And
no problem.
till the next time, Eric, take care. And for everyone else listening, make sure you go out and follow him. He's on Instagram and he's got a YouTube, so go hit him up with follow and a couple of likes and subscribe. Right. So, all right,
Appreciate it.
man. Thanks for stopping on by the River Run.
Thank
Well, you have heard it, Eric Siddiqui. This is cool. He's for all the tournament guys out there, go check him out on Instagram. He's got Bassmaster Kayak Series champion right here. But yeah, once again, thanks for stopping on by the River Run. I'm Adam Pross, your host. You can always check out the River Run podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, down in the Paddle and Fin library, full of shows. Go check out the other shows. Tons of new shows. There's a new show starting actually on Paddle and Fin coming up soon. So yeah, thanks for stopping on by the River Run, and I look forward to seeing you all soon on the next episode.